I am so excited to bring you this interview. You're going to get episode 98 and 99 in the same week. And this is episode 98 with my lovely friend Jennifer Hale. Please stay tuned to this interview. It's amazing. You get to hear a lot about her, things that she's doing, the things that she's overcome. Welcome to episode 98 of the Positivity Experience. It's all about Jennifer Hale, baby. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. This is episode 98. This is with my beautiful, beautiful friend, Jennifer Hale. You may realize you know her without knowing her. She's going to talk to you a lot about the things that she's gone through, the adversity. And you're also going to get episode 99 on anger. And to all of the newest Patreons, thank you so much for joining over at the Patreon. We talk about anger, expectations around the holiday. So without further ado, please stay tuned to the full hour interview here with Jennifer Hale. I think that you'll get a lot out of it. She's a beautiful human. And I love you guys. Welcome to episode 98. Here's all about Jennifer. Okay, everybody, I am so excited to have one of my very first video guests and audio guests, and I couldn't think of a better person to do it. And you might know her without knowing you know her. So I just want to rattle off a few things before I introduce you to this amazing human. And then I want to share with you one of my favorite things about her that I haven't even shared with her yet. So just a few things. If you have gamers in your life, or if you watch animated series, or even if you watch regular television, you might have seen or especially heard her. And we're going to get into some of her singing because her singing is amazing. So we're going to get into some of that too. But if you've ever played a game like Overwatch, if anybody in your family does, if you've ever watched Slumberkins, which is on now, it's a TV series, Bayonetta. Now we've also had some older ones like Rick and Morty, what? Phineas and Ferb, what? The Powerpuff Girls? Are you kidding me right now? Scooby-Doo? Oh my gosh, like Mass Effect? Like we are talking top of the line. And a little secret, I will say, this is the first time that I've had a Guinness Book World Record just interaction with somebody who is like the Meryl Streep. What, are we kidding? Welcome, my friend, who I'm so happy to call my friend, Miss Jennifer Hale. Welcome.
Holy cow. I need to copy that introduction. I'm just going to listen to it whenever I'm not feeling fabulous. That was incredible. Thank you. What an honor. And I am so thrilled to be here. I mean, your words and your perspective and your awesome, loving smack upside the head and cold water splash of what we all will benefit from doing and the love behind all of it are just so wonderful. Thank you.
So, and you know what? The fact that you're just a beautiful woman who is just come from so much, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to share with you one of my favorite things that as I was doing a lot of research, because let me tell you guys, if you want to go out there and look up Jennifer Hale, you are going to see a collage on her website, jenniferhale.com. And you will see all of these beautiful, beautiful, characters that she's done. Oh, Jennifer, you disappeared on me. Your camera went by.
My camera just went bye-bye. Hold on, I'm going to turn it off.
You're fine. You're good.
I'll tinker while you talk.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Tinker while you talk. That's like whistle while you work. And I feel like if that's animated that you could sing that along with it.
While you talk.
And you know, one thing that I will say that I read and that made my heart just spew with even more love than I thought I could have for you is the fact that you have helped horses during wildfires. We are definitely going to be talking about that. So are you kidding me right now? Like that right there, all of the other stuff, beautiful and it's amazing. And these accolades are great. But I got to tell you, as a human being, to know that you have been helping horses who are like in this wildfire. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
I absolutely can. Yeah, I love horses. I mean, anybody who spent 5 seconds with me knows that. And I lived in the LA area for a very long time. And we would have these crazy brush fires. And I would show up as what was called a convergent volunteer, which is just people showing up, which can be a real pain in the butt for the fire department and not helpful. So I went and got trained, and I joined this thing called LACDAC-ERT, which is LA County Department of Animal Care and Control Equine Response Team. And we were under the liability umbrella of animal control, but we were trained by the fire department and by a beautiful horsewoman I know, trust, and adore named Linda Harrell. And we would go in and there'd be a fire, and we'd show up in our volunteer suits with all of our gear and all of our badges, and we would just go in advance of brush fires. Well, hopefully, sometimes not always full advance, like right up against them sometimes, and pull horses out. And one of the things that I realized, I'll never forget this, it was such a lesson in judgment and assumptions, which I keep having those lessons, right? I remember as a convergent volunteer showing up, and there was a farm, and there were like big old hogs. We're talking hogs there, and animals of all kinds, and they just looked like they'd just been left by their owner, and I was so mad. And a week or so later, I was at animal control getting the dog I had for years and years. We were just getting her as a puppy, and I saw some guy come to pick up his pigs, and they were the giant pigs that's a whole other story, getting them in the trailer. And I was like, oh my God, it's that guy. And I was all judgy and pissed off. And I heard him. I thank God I kept my mouth shut, because he went to the counter, and his heart was hurting. He was like, oh my God, they wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let me come get my animals. Because when they close down a fire area, they close everything down. You can't get in or out. And it does not matter. And so that's what we're there for. People could pick up the phone and call us to go in and evacuate the horses for them. We evacuated horses, goats, minis, you name it. We evacuated it.
And how did you not adopt every single one of them and become the crazy animal fire lady?
I know, right? Oh, trust me, there were times I learned so much. I mean, we had one. People delude themselves a lot. And this is a little PSA for that, especially around horses, because that's where I ran into it the most. People will get a horse and go, I just want them to live like they're wild. They're not. They're living in your home environment. So it is a safety and survival gift to your animal to teach them how to get on a halter and walk in and out of a trailer. We had to leave one mare behind because she wouldn't load. And we tried so long. I was with Linda, like the woman who taught us all. And we got a stallion in there. We got all kinds into trailers, and this mare would not go. And we had the fire department on the phone going, you guys, you need to get out. Yep, just a few more minutes. You guys, you need to get out. Get out! And we're like, Jesus, okay. Oh my God. And we had to leave her behind. She ended up being okay, but it was just heartbreaking. And there was another place we went where this horse was so wild, like there's nothing you could do, but it was living in someone's sort of, nice size enclosure, but around houses with people doing people things, like things catch on fire. And we had to leave that horse. But there are key things. If, we would always remember, like, you always close the door to the barn and you close the door to the food, because they will run to their familiar spaces and die because those spaces catch fire. So you put them in an open thing, and you just have to leave it to the forces that be.
But I tell you, the fact that I saw that, I was like,
and where did you find that? I can't even believe you saw that.
I'm not telling. I have secrets. Because you know what it is? I love to hear people. I love to meet people. And, it's funny because I did read a quote, by the way. This quote is like such a boss quote. And correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, better yet, I'm going to have you say it. It has something about jobs and boys. So can you tell me about you?
Oh,
yes. Let's hear it.
Because hold on. Wait, I don't think I have it. I don't think I have it all the way. Give me a little bit more of a hint, because I have a lot of opinions.
I believe it's something like you like taking the jobs for the boys.
Oh, yeah. More. Well, this is a funny story, actually. It was around the time when it was around the time Mass Effect came out, and there was other stuff going on. Tom Bissell, who is a brilliant writer, you're going to see more about him, and we have over the years, was incredibly gracious. Several years ago, did a profile on me for the New Yorker, and right around the same time, I was like, oh my God, I got that cool PR. That's amazing. And then my girlfriend texts me. She's like, I'm in Hawaii reading about you on a beach. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, the New Yorker? She's like, no, More Magazine. I'm like, what? And she sends me this text picture, and it's a picture of like quotes from women we like. The quotes we like. I don't know if we like the women. That's to be decided.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Quotes we like from women. There you go. And it was a video game controller, and it had a quote from me in there, which is, "I like to take the boys' jobs."
I love that so much.
Well, that
You
goes,
know,
yeah, there's a story behind that, which
yeah,
is
let's hear
when
it.
I moved to LA in the early 90s, and I did the on-camera acting scene for a couple years, and I booked jobs and stuff, but it wasn't enough to pay my bills. And I came from a market where I was dominant. Like I'd only ever worked as an actor since I was like in high school. Well, since I went full time, just when I started college. And when I moved to LA, you do that whole like, gotta start over again in a whole new market where I'm invisible. Okay. And finally, after 2 years of going, wow, I can't pay my bills with this frequency of work. And it was before we could do things long distance. You had to physically be there. It was back in the old times.
Back in
And,
the old days.
yeah. And so I made a VO demo just to get some work and bring some money in, and bam, like it worked. And I used to go to my agents to audition, and I would see the copy, and I'd been doing this for several years before I got to LA, so I understood the ways. And it would say, woman number 4, woman number 2, announcer. And I knew enough to know announcer was recurring revenue. I was like, oh no, that's when the jobs keep coming back. So I'd say to my agents, hey, can I read for announcer? Oh, they want a man. I know. Can I read it anyway? You don't have to send it. Just let me read it. They're like, okay. And I just did that. I pestered the snot out of them because I thought, you know what? This isn't what should be. I know in my bones this isn't what should be. My career looks like, voice acting and this and that. My actual career is carrier of divine spark whenever I am blessed to be able to do so, and friggin' breaker of barriers. You show me a door, give me some boots. I don't even need boots. Let's just bust that thing down because that's just dumb,
Now,
so.
where did that power come from? That didn't just you didn't just pull that out of the air. So
Oh
talk to me
no.
about how did you get there and what kind of pain, because you don't get that out of pleasure. You find that from pain. Share with us where that came.
Do you know what an ACE score is?
I do.
Okay, mine's 7.
Got you. Do you want
So
to explain that for people who may not?
my understanding is that so an ACE score, it's actually really interesting where it came from. My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is
Mm-hmm.
that I think it was a doctor in Orange County trying to help people lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it kept failing and failing. And he's like, this is great information. What is going on? Something is broken here. And these are decent people. Like,
Yep.
there's just something not working. So God love that doctor. They dug deeper. And he realized that there's a commonality, which is these people all have significant childhood traumas.
Mm-hmm.
So he created I don't remember who else was involved, but a process of assessment was created where you take a test,
Yep.
and I think if you get around to 4, they're like, "Uh-oh, that's not so
Yeah.
good.
Problematic. Yeah. Little
You got
problematic.
problems. You got some traumas going on." And it stands for adverse childhood experiences.
Yes, I'm a 9, so you know. Yes.
My
Yay!
people, my
All of the
people.
trauma people. Let's
Yes.
do this. Yes.
Yes. Well, I have a set of very deep beliefs about my trauma that have developed over years. I mean, look, I was an angry little festering sore for quite a while. And look, I had a lot to go. I had significant complaints, but ain't nobody listening. Because once you pass that 18 thing, and honestly, once you pass that 15 and that 12, well, 15-ish, 18-ish thing, like, it's yours now.
It is.
And
It
no
is.
one's going to fix it but you. And I vociferously pursued help and growth from 19 on. I needed the place to vent. I needed a space to be heard because I was never heard. And to this day, invalidation is a hot trigger. But as one
Oh,
of
I'm
my,
going to talk to you about that in a
oh
little
yeah,
bit. Now you're talking
yeah,
my love
oh
language.
yeah,
Okay. Yes.
one of my mentors has a great saying, which is everything is medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an experience around a game I did recently. I think about 3-4 weeks ago that was like a public searing, and I'm under NDA, so I was unable to speak on my own behalf.
I think I know which one that is, but
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
talk about it offline.
yeah. We'll talk about all that, but
Yeah.
it's all lessons though, and what I've learned over the years. And I use therapy like a tool because my belief that I hold in my heart and my soul is that I was backing up. I was raised by things I can't see. I could hear them. My mother was a borderline personality disorder with narcissism and bipolar, and was married and divorced 5 times, and there were a couple other people she lived with in between. And she would never let me bond with anyone. where she would shred me and them. And you can't bond with those people. So I grew up from just before 2 on completely emotionally isolated, like completely. And the environment I grew up in, if I breathed wrong, if I moved wrong, all hell would break loose, and it would break loose down in my head. There was not as much physical violence, although that did happen. Tons and tons of emotional violence, and the things that I was told that I was didn't line up with, they felt terrible, right? That feels terrible, right? When it's daily and there's no one else there to counteract it, no siblings or anything. I've since found all my siblings, which is a really cool story. But it was such a gift. It was not the funnest thing on the planet by any stretch, and I barely made it through my 20s because the aftermath of that is a lot of excruciating pain that often gets turned in on ourselves. And, even with the abuse, I got expressed anger towards my mother 3 times. The first 2 times I lost a third of my hair, literally. And the third time I had taken a self-defense course, and I fell off a horse on a ride, landed on some rocks, and had like bleeding kidneys, so I couldn't take the last class and do the graduation. So I was like, dang it. Well, that's the other piece is I come out, I'll disassociate, and I'll put, I had the old habits of disassociating and putting myself at physical risk, like whatever, I can take it. I'll absorb all the emotional trauma in a situation or a space and go, I can take it. And that lesson actually recently played out for me with the whole Bayonetta controversy, but
Yes.
in a beautiful way. I healed another piece of it there, which was super cool. But I didn't know if this class had taken, because it's the class where the guys wear these big jack-in-the-box kind of heads, and they've got like massive protection on their crotch because you're going to kick them full force and tear at them and do all your self-defense stuff full force. And they still teach these classes to this day. They're extraordinary. And I was really anxious about whether it would work. And I went to see my mother, and I did the cardinal sin of telling truth for a moment. And I did it very compassionately, which I've become an artist at. You have to survive, right? So I told truth, and sure enough, she spins, and the head starts to spin, and she's coming at me, and my brain does the same debate it always does in these moments. It went, oh my God, she's going to attack us. How dare you think that? Her feelings would be so hurt if she knew you thought that of her. That's a terrible thing to think about anyone. In the meantime, my body's like, oh my God, really? And my hands are up in the air in the defense position. My feet are planted, and this voice comes from the middle of the earth up through, God help me, my crotch and the rest of me, and goes, don't you bleeping, and I didn't say bleeping, touch me. You will never hit me again as long as I bleep or live. And it was like something out of friggin' Ghostbusters. It was like the voice of I don't know what. No. And she's at that point, she was motoring toward me, and I think she was probably about 8 feet from me. And she stopped like she'd been hit and spun around and ran inside and locked the door. Mm-hmm. At which point I started to convulsively cry.
Of course you did.
And I just wanted to call someone, but everyone was like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. No one knew how to validate. So I just sat with it. But that whole experience, people will, I know some people hear this and they go, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, please don't do that. Please don't do that, because I get to learn things in this life that I appear white. I'm not fully white, but I have sort of resting privilege face.
Yes.
The way I look, people assume I grew up in privilege and I grew up having it easy, and my life is extraordinary. So people are like, well, that's so nice for you. And I'm like, yeah, I crawled through glass and I sweated and I worked and I committed and I just repeated and I tore through, days of deep self-disbelief, and I've fought my way to this moment, and I'm so proud of myself, Yeah. So,
well, and I think that's a whole other thing, because much like you said, and this is again why I would just vibed so much with you to see, as I tell this to people all the time, and I love that you said, I want to circle back to what you said when you were like, please don't say that, like time out, please don't say you're sorry. I say that to people all the time, and people think I'm probably a little insane when I say I wouldn't change the molestation, I wouldn't change all of the abuse, I wouldn't change living in a house with 500 mice after my mom passed, I wouldn't change living in a van, because I wouldn't be here, and I definitely wouldn't have the tools. Here's the thing, and I don't think people understand it. You can graduate with 64 different master's degrees from the top colleges in the world and have zero street knowledge. And yeah, you might get a fancy job, but guess what? You're not going to really have a balanced life because you don't know. So I feel like you and I and many people who are listening to this and watching this anywhere, they grew up in the school of hard knocks, and you and I aren't that far apart in age. And I think too, being in that middle area, which is the new 20s, people have to know that we are the new 20s. Mine's a little Botox too, so
we do what we have to.
Do what we got. But I think that the biggest thing is, and I know you've heard me talk about it a lot, is I have a very, like you said, I'm a very kind smack up against the head, but there's going to be a smack up against the head, because living in a victim mentality, and I'm writing my second book now, and living in a victim mentality, I have a whole chapter on that, and I'm going to send you a copy when it's done.
I can't wait.
I can't wait for it to be done. But is the direct approach people run from because they want to keep blaming somebody. It's really easy. And I know you and I probably did that same sort of like, self-destructive type behaviors and things like that, because that comes natural, right? We aren't worthy in our self-love. So we are going to we can do it all and we can take it all and it doesn't matter. And the more dangerous and the more awful it can be, the more we're going to go towards it, right? And so that's this cycle of believing the narrative that people have demonstrated to us from their own unhealed trauma, right? But when you get tired of living in that victim mentality, and to your point earlier, like you said, over 15, 16, it's something I say all the time. Your trauma inflicted on you is not your responsibility. However, healing it is. And if you're waiting for someone to take that accountability and to heal you, you continue to victimize yourself over and over again because you keep giving that power back to the person or persons or situation who inflicted that trauma in the first place, which goes to what you said earlier, where I was like, oh yeah, she's talking about that language, which is that validation. And it's something that I hang my hat on pretty hard because validation, first of all, thoughts and feelings aren't facts. They're perceptions to each and every one of us. So they're real to us in the moment, right? Yeah. But in that same breath, those feelings are yours to process. And when you are waiting for validation, you're waiting for validation based on where that person is in their own healing. So if you're waiting for someone to be empathetic, to say, wow, I really understand where you're coming from. I hear you. Okay. What you're saying is, hey, I need you to be really healed. Like I need you to just get rid of all that stuff you have. And I need you to come from a place of self-love and healing. And I need you to validate me based on that. But the reality is, people can't validate you if they're not good in their own space. A person's validation is only as good and valuable, for that matter, based on where they are. If you wouldn't want them to walk in your shoes, don't let them tie your laces, right? And so when you're in that space, so while it can be a hot button for you, while you can feel that trigger come up and you can feel that sense of oh, what is wrong with you people? Can't you see this? Yeah. Know that that's still a little bit of that little inner child that you got going on. And then be mindful that while another person does validate you, let's say they do validate you. Let's say they're like, yes, I hear you. And two healed people can do that. And they can do it without codependency and without enmeshment. But again, you have to remember, you and I and so many other people have actually done years and years and years of work, and we will continue for the rest of our natural born life. It's not going to just end of doing years and years and years of work. But some people haven't gotten there, and some people are committed to only seeing you as the villain or seeing your actions as such. So then they can't validate you. And then even if they do validate you, it can sometimes come with this really expensive price.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why when it triggers you, just look at the source and go, don't judge it, right? Because then you're not any better, right? Yeah. So you've got to be careful of the judgment piece of that and send love and light and go, okay, they're just on a different space of that journey, right? Mm-hmm. And then of course, protect yourself, have those boundaries. So, and it was funny because it's so funny how life works and how you pull power. Is it true? Okay, this is 2022. Is it true that you did not play video games until 2011?
That was the first time I ever played a game, and it's because somebody made me do it.
But you weren't allowed to watch cartoons, right?
Right. Yeah. My mom said she'd beat me black and blue if I watched a soap opera, and I was not allowed to watch cartoons. What I was allowed to watch was extremely restricted. So it's super ironic. When I made that commercial, I just made a commercial demo in LA because I just knew in my heart of hearts, I was like, commercials at that time were very presentational. And I'm like, that's not going to work, guys. I have this, I know it's going to work. And I came in with a different take and a different thing, and it hit like wildfire. But that's not what hit first. What hit first was I took my demo in. It got me in through Cindy Akers, this amazing woman who created my demo, called Cynthia McLean, who's still my agent. And Cynthia was like, I want to meet her. Let's talk. And then Charles, another agent, was in the shower and had the idea to send me on a callback for an animated series. Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? I never watched cartoons. I was like, I'm just gonna go, just gonna jump. Let's do it. That's one of the blessings of growing up in chaos. I'm like, okay, I can function in chaos. Let's do it. And I went in and just jumped with my instincts. And I had gone to a fine arts high school, mostly because the bullying was so intense I couldn't take a regular high school. And that's something my mother did really right. She had me audition for that. Now, I learned my monologue in the parking lot of a bar the night before, like around 1 a.m, but I got her done, and I made it in. It's ironic. It was, I made it in by the skin of my teeth. Like, I think I was conditionally accepted, and the monologue was from Skin of Our Teeth, so it all was perfect.
Oh, that's great.
So anyway, I went to this audition, and boom, animated series started coming, like a series regular, another series regular, another series regular. It was just the irony of the universe I love the universe. It cracks me up. It's so...
The universe is a great ironic personality.
It's perfect. Everything really is perfect, and I think I know better. So that's the thing I started to say that is sometimes hard for people to hear, and I don't mean that anyone else should adopt this philosophy. I'm going to be very clear. This is the philosophy I live by. Everything that happened in my life, I'm not going to use the words to me, because I believe that we are reverse icebergs. I believe that a significant proportion of me is in the ethers and has a much higher level of intelligence, because we can only see, check this out. I just learned this a couple weeks ago. We can only see 0.0035%, 0.0035% of all the colors. Imagine what we can't even hear. And we think we know. We're discovering medicine like we invented it. No, we're just starting to figure out the puzzle. And we found the first two pieces and we're like, dude, we're geniuses. It cracks me up. So my personal belief is that my highest self is involved in making the choices. I believe I chose the family I came into for what I could learn. I believe I came into that family to heal generations of pain, because there are those who say you heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward when you heal you. I have a level of internal power, like you said, that is informed by a combination of what happened in my life at a very young age, what I went through in my 20s as all that shook out, and what I chose to do to take steps to heal it. And most recently, the relationship I've really dug in to repair with myself. And every single piece of it is a gift. Like, I'm just in awe constantly of I had foot surgery a couple weeks ago, and I did the dumb thing the other night, and I slipped, and I bent my toes all the way back, and I tore a bunch of stitches out, and the pain was ridiculous. I was like yelling, and I don't ever do that because I'm a single mom and I don't want to freak my kid out. But he wasn't freaked out, which is amazing because I was loud. But even then, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what the lesson here. There's a lesson, and my kid's like, Mom, I know the lesson. I'm like, not right now. Can't hear you tonight. Tell me tomorrow. Tell me tomorrow. I can't hear anything right now. I'm so mad. I'm just so mad. And I realized that I was practicing with this surgery. I'm like, I got to be off my feet for 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm a very busy single mom. I have a company that I run. I have an incredible career. Like, no. And the doctor's like, then I'm not doing it. And I was like, well, fine. So I realized I was going through this experience with conditional acceptance and surrender. All right, I'll surrender to this as long as I'm back on my feet in this number of weeks and as long as it goes this way. Mm-hmm. And the lesson my kid, next morning I said to Shane, I was like, all right, what's the lesson? He goes, you got to let people help you. And I was like, shut up. God, whatever, big pants.
Well, and that was also your ego, right? So that's where the ego comes into play.
Right.
And it's funny. So like growing up, I've been intuitive. So I've been able to see people who've crossed over. I also practice shamanism. There's a lot that comes into play. So when you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, yes. Not only do you heal past those seven generations before and seven after, none of that truly, to your point, none of that truly happens until you heal yourself. And I think this is something that all my content, all my profession, all my personal belief system, my personal belief system as well, is you have to be your main priority. You have to love and honor and do the shadow work for that small child that other people didn't do. Now we're social creatures, we're mammals. Yes, we need human interaction. We're not islands. No man is an island, right? However, that doesn't mean that you avoid being alone or being a single mom or avoid something like that just to say you have something in your life, right? Because now we go into codependency. So in that process of healing yourself, right, it's about that self-validation. And it's something that I say all the time. It's okay, so what if you don't succeed at something? That's perfectly fine. I am a huge person that believes that failure and mistakes are the mecca of beauty, because without that, how do you have those tools? And it's funny, there was something else, and I can't wait to talk to you about this because I feel like so many people can like get this from you, because you're like just a plethora of amazing energy, just beautiful inside and out. I think so many people can benefit from this during the pandemic. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe I saw it on the old Instagram. Is that you created with your sister's guidance something called Skills Hub.
I did
And
indeed.
I do feel like that was something that you saw an opportunity, but not just about money, an opportunity for energy and to help other people. Can you share that story with all of us?
I
Because
would
there may
love
be
to share
somebody
that.
listening that might want to even be a part of Skills Lab.
It's incredible. Thank you for asking. I'm overjoyed with it. Yeah, what it is we used to audition with people in rooms. And then we started to like record from home. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, boom, like that's it. You're recording from home forever. And there's this thing that happens because when we do a good job, 90% of the time, this is what we hear. Well, when we do an audition, 90% of the time, this is what we hear.
Nothing.
Nothing. And that void gets filled with our self-talk. And so how we feel is exactly equal to the quality of our self-talk, which, look, you're not enacting because you have the best self-talk in the world necessarily. Some people are, but a lot of us are not. So I just needed 10 minutes with someone I trusted to just like, God, just tell me if I'm on or off. Because when you're not getting, you're like, what's happening here? And so I thought, gosh, I want to create a site with like a calendar and coaches can come in and you can just do 10 minutes with somebody. And my sister is a very smart sister. She says, you know what? I'm going to have a barbecue. I'm going to invite my friend Bill. Bill Reed is a brilliant designer and programmer. And so Karen, Bill, and I started having meetings in her dining room. And what emerged was Skills Hub, which is like masterclass meets drive-through McDonald's, and now with courses. So you can get, whether you're just starting out and you're like, I don't even know how to start, you can come in and you can either book time with a coach. And we have now 70 some coaches, and they're all working actors. They are voice directors who work in the industry, whether it's animation, games, audiobooks, all of it, or they are casting directors who work in the industry. And you can book anywhere from 10 to 60 minutes with them, paid by the minute. You can take a class with them. Now we're offering classes. And then we've also created, Jeff Burns, lovely, lovely guy in the VOVA community, said, you should have like workout rooms, because we used to get inspired and take a class and we'd all like pay an engineer after hours and go work out together once a week. So we Genius Bill, built a mechanism where you can just go, I'm going to do a workout room this Friday on improv. Who wants to come? And everybody can sign up and come and play, and you just work out with each other if you're not ready to get in front of a coach. It's the community side of it's incredible. Just servicing the coaches. We did 50 some hours of 50 some one-on-one meetings with working actors, really like crazy successful working actors, beginning working actors, brand new people who just want to learn how to do this, and coaches to just design, because that's Bill. He's all about the user experience. He's like, it's got to be this, it's got to be. And we just, to this day, like whatever I was upstairs working on it before I came down here. Now it's time to get the word out widely about it. We've kind of, like, everybody who's in my circle is aware of it. We've had some beautiful classes and beautiful community, and it's a really, I'm so proud of this space. I love it so much.
So who is that for? Let's say somebody is listening to this and they're like, you know what? I've been told I have a radio voice, or I've been told I should voice over. I've been told da da da. I don't know where to begin. How would they, like, what should they do? Talk to them about that.
You should come to Skills Hub, and you should start with our forum and introduce yourself. It's the little menus over on the left. And then you should go to the A Minute With podcast series. It's a private podcast for our members. And you go in and you can listen to, and right now, I don't even know how many are in. 20 some right now have been recorded, and it's how people got started. What was their story? What do they wish they'd known? What are the mistakes they made they wish they hadn't made? What do they wish they could tell everybody? Start there. Jump into a workout room. Just go and just say, I'm just here to watch. And then book 10 minutes with somebody who just say, getting started, and say, I don't even know what to ask you. I just wanted to do this. Or wait for my next, I'm putting out an evergreen course in the spring that you'll be able to take. You won't even have to like be in front of people. You can just like download the course and do it at home. And when you're feeling brave, I'm going to hold office hours every few weeks where people who've done my evergreen class can come in and ask me direct questions. We have AMAs on there. Our coaches will go on and do an Ask Me Anything about, I am actually someone who works in a non-union market. I have no intention to ever move to the big city, but I'm stuck at 5 figures. How do I get to 6 figures? One of our coaches, Catherine Campion, specializes in that. Like, anything you need, you can find it there. I think our biggest challenge is we have so much to offer. People are like, I now have analysis paralysis. I don't know what to choose. So just come in. Hit me up on social media and we'll chat. I chat with people. We've started putting out a really specific campaign to answer certain questions. And I'm like, DM me. And when you DM, I'm going to answer.
So, she's going to answer. Yes, she is absolutely going to answer. I can see that. And yeah. I will make sure. And if you guys want to know, I'll put it down here when I edit this. You'll see it on the screen. But also where you're getting the podcast, you will see all of Jennifer's information. Like, you'll see her website. You'll see Skills Hub. You'll see her Instagram. Yeah. And okay, so I want to ask you some fun questions, right? Yes. What would you say in all of the many, I'm talking to a Guinness Book World Record holder, in all of the many voices that you've done, if you had to pick a favorite, what would it be?
I know the answer to this, and you may or may not like it. My favorite thing is the sheer variety of things I've been able to do, and the fact that I have not been put in a box.
I love that too. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to recognize your voice, right? They don't know you, but they want to recognize your voice. What do you think would be, even if it's a commercial, what would you think the most popular thing is that you've ever said?
I should go. It's a line from a game called Mass Effect. This morning, my doctor has sent me to buy a particular brand of shoes, and so I went to this store. My sister's like, "This is a great store. It's a local store." And I'm like, "Perfect, let's go." So we go, and we're buying the shoes, and I'm forced to sit with my foot up all the time, or be in bed with my foot up. So I'm sitting. No, I choose to. No one's forcing me to do anything. To have this be successful, I choose to follow the orders. And so I'm sitting over on the bench where you try on shoes, and my sister's at the counter, and she's giving him, this rarely happens, and I've lived here for 2.5 years. It hasn't happened here yet. And she's giving the guy my name, and she's like, Jennifer, and he goes, Hale, and he goes, Hale, and he goes, wait, the Jennifer Hale? And I was like, what? What's happening? What's happening right now? I was like, oh my God, it's happening here. Okay. And I was like, I don't know. Possibly, yes. So he recognized me from Mass Effect, which is really cool. In the 90s, it would have been Gateway Computers. Call 1-800-GATEWAY. That was me forever. And it was. Yeah, I'm sorry. My kid is now texting me in the middle of this interview. I'm going to just let him know that I haven't disappeared because he's.
Yes, please let him know. Tell him you'll be right with him in just a minute.
Yeah. No rush. He just doesn't know where I am.
And there's something else that I saw that, touched me. on such a high level. And like I said, anybody who has remotely listened to me more than 5 minutes knows I'm in love with Canada. I shared that with you before we came on here. But I was watching something on your website. I highly encourage you to go to Jennifer's website, jenniferhale.com. Highly encourage that. You will not just see that, you will also hear, and I'm gonna ask her about her singing in a second. That's what I'm gonna end on. But I wanted to talk to you about truth and reconciliation in Canada.
Yeah.
Can you, because I listened to that 4.5 minute, I watched this 4.5 minute video on your website, and I was extremely touched by this. Can you share as to why that was so worthy to put on your website?
Yes, I am Nunatuavut, which is Southern Labrador Inuit. And my grandmothers all came from the land around Labrador for thousands of years. My father, in February 2020, we went up to see him. And I was just running outside to move my car, and it was, it was probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. And it's bloody cold in February in Labrador at that time of day. But I just threw on some slippers or boots and ran out to move my car with no jacket. And I ran outside, and as soon as I stepped out, it was dead in that gorgeous, gorgeous snowy silence with the stars. It was clear night.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm feeling the feel. It hit me like the most gorgeous invisible wall stopped me dead in my tracks. And it wasn't a wall. It was just this, I suddenly felt the force of 4,000 years of ancestors just go boom. And I just literally stopped dead in my tracks. No jacket, just like, oh my God. And it was so humbling and so beautiful. And I just stood still in that, and it was perfect silence in my head too. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
It felt incredible.
It was incredible. And then after like a minute or so, like a full minute, I was like, Jesus, it's cold. I moved the car.
Like, okay, that moment, that was great. Now it's gone. Yes.
Yeah. And so I have, since my mom, I found out at a late age that my mom actually kidnapped me away from my father. Because I finally got up the guts one day to ask him why he never came to find me if he knew what my mom was actually like. I was like, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to shame him. I'm like, and it worked out because I got to be me, right? And I found a kind way to ask, and he's like, oh, and he said, I came to see you, and I found you. Long story short, he came to visit me where he'd finally found me, and then he came to visit me again, and I was gone. And this would have been in the late 60s, and ain't no finding me then.
Mm-mm.
And so, so that's when I was separated from my father. But growing up, I always identified with, what we call in the U.S. Native American stuff. Like in my bones, I identified with it, and I didn't understand why. I just knew, like, I remember that song Cherokee People, and I was like, I don't know, I was tiny. It's one of the very few memories I have of childhood, just being enraged, because it just connected. And, when I'm around people of color, when I'm around First Nations or Indigenous peoples, I just lean in, and they're looking at me like, what in God's name are you doing?
Why is this lady here?
Why is this white lady? What is this crazy white lady doing? And I was like, oh my God. And, but it's true. My father was a, loved and his jobs in his life were like driving a truck, driving a snowplow, like regular labor jobs. He was a beloved, ferocious, really brilliant activist for Indigenous peoples. He did things like, and for peoples of all sorts, Labrador, we fall under the jurisdiction of the Newfoundland government, but do not ever tell a Labradorian they're a Newfoundlander, because they're not. And they would not put the Labrador flag at the border. We are most of the physical territory of what is technically under that government. Newfoundland's the island on the side there. And wouldn't put our flag up. So my father took a tree down, sawed it, and, sanded it down. So it was a nice long, I don't know, 25, however long, 30, who knows, long pole, long tall pole. Threw a bunch of bags of concrete in his truck and drove hours to the border with Quebec. Dug a hole, put the concrete in, ran the flag up, and left it.
That's amazing.
And then the government was like, what? All right, we'll put one on the other side then. It was like that was our father. That was our father was an extraordinary man and a very active traveler. He was did hunger strike. He was arrested a couple times and put in prison for his or jail, I think was one, and he did a hunger strike. And when he was 79, he had cancer for years. It was a slow moving cancer, and it wasn't what ultimately killed him, or ended up being the switch for his transition. He was 79, and he and two other elders were called in because there was this huge, terrible corporation called Nalcor. They're vile. Their activities are vile. They were putting a dam in at Muskrat Falls, and they still are. And we had, I'm not going to name any names, we had family who drove a truck and knew the guys who dug the core samples for the dam. And just a little quick education, when you build a dam, you need to build it on something solid because it's holding back a whole bunch of water with a lot of force and it needs to be there. And so they dig these things called core samples to look at the ground underneath, make sure it's solid stuff. It was bags of sand and water, and they built the dam anyway.
Oh my, that seems
Yeah.
bad, right? Doesn't that seem
Extremely bad.
problematic?
It has also saddled the people of Labrador with a couple $1 billion worth of long-term debt to pay off, which they will not benefit from. But that power will be sold to places like New York and other places, and they'll make a lot of money. Somebody under this crown contract, Nalcor, is making a lot of money. And so my father used to walk on that land because we're indigenous. That is our land. That is our land. And he continued to walk even after the corporation put up their fences and said, stop walking. He's like, no, I'm walking. And they took him to court and said, you need to sign this injunction that says you will no longer walk on this land. He said, I will not do that because I will be walking on the land. So they put him in chains, shackles on his wrists and ankles, along with two other elders. No charges were levied or filed. They put him in a van. They drove them to the airport and they flew them. We don't know where. We didn't know where. We didn't know where they were for 24 hours.
Lord.
And I took to Twitter with like a real angry face and a lot of reaction, emotion. And my sister, my very smart sister, found the phone number of the CEO's office. And I tweeted it out with that video. And I waited a couple days and I called her and I said, introduce myself.
She's probably like, oh Lord, you're the one. You're the one.
I'm Jim Learning's daughter, Jennifer Hale. And I said, so are you getting phone calls? She goes, a few. And I chatted to her for a while, and we both moved past our ice into some level of just the tiniest bit of connection, and she set up a phone call for us and the CEO. And so my sister and I got on the phone with him, and we batted him back and forth like a soccer ball for an hour and a half.
Good.
When I would get angry, she would take over. When she would get angry, she doesn't get angry, but when she would need a minute, she does get angry. She's so good at respond versus react. So that didn't change anything. 5 federal senators signed a letter, and up here that's a big deal, saying please release this man from prison. He did a hunger strike during this time.
Wow.
And Trudeau overlooked it. He just overlooked it all. So that tells you where I stand on that particular person.
Yes. Well, we also know where you got your strength from. Side note, but
it's both. Yeah. And my mother, I can't imagine living with the Swiss cheese holes she had in her being, because she was, I've lived through 4 people trying to kill themselves in front of me, and she was the first one, but one of her husbands was the second one, and I was like 16 and I saved his life. And I actually share this stuff strategically too, because I know people out there who love and listen to Lori Wheeler. Mm-hmm. Many of you are going through things like this, and I'm just shooting my son a heart because he's going out with his friends, but don't tell him I told you that. I know people live through this stuff, and I'm not here to normalize it. What I am here to say is, yeah, you're not alone. And guess what? There's another side. And guess what? For me, and this may not be the case for you, for me, after I got through the pain part, I found a huge bonus part, because of the filters that I have learned and chosen in my life, that are everything is happening. I can choose the things that are happening for me, and I think our communities of color get that. Our marginalized peoples get that. Because God knows they have to, right?
Is there something that people can do who are listening that can help that? Like, that can help this cause? Is there something that, even if it's just educating themselves, if it's because, see, so many things like this happen, especially in indigenous areas, of all areas. We know we're talking about this specifically. Like, is there something that, see, people don't know, right? Because some people are kept away from this, right? People don't want you to see certain
It's
things.
been whitewashed.
It's literally, it's whitewashed, right? And
Yeah.
so is there something that they could do to kind of help this? Is there something that, especially if people are listening in the Canada area and anywhere around the world for that matter, that could help with what's going on?
The first thing is awareness. We have an announcement, a territorial announcement on our website. And it is that where we do business takes place on the land of the peoples of, and that happens before every meeting up here. Well, most meetings that I'm aware of. And I mean, that shouldn't say every meeting because people are going to go, nah. And I'm like, well, many. It's in the consciousness of Canada.
Right.
Many. Mm-hmm. First thing I'm going to say is, I got to find a polite way to say this.
Not really.
Let's wake up together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Look at where you're standing. If you're standing in North America, actually, if you're standing in many places on this planet, you are standing on stolen land. That was not yours.
Mm-hmm.
People came and just, please educate yourself briefly. And that can be a real short process, a fast Wikipedia search, a quick search. How did this land go from these people living here to those people living here? How did smallpox infect thousands and thousands of native peoples and wipe them out? How did alcoholism get introduced as a strategic tool to control, and now people are made fun of because they have a physiological vulnerability to those particular forms of sugars? How did we shame them? How do we put people on reserves? And look, this goes into food and everything else. How do we ship out now pallets of things called food that are nothing but brain poison and diabetes waiting to happen and liver, I'm getting into reaction, and liver, damage waiting to happen. And that's not just alcohol. That's a lot of our food today. Get aware of how we got from native peoples living on the land to a bunch of white people and other people living on the land. How did we all move around the planet in a certain way? Look, it's happened. Let's not play the blame game.
Right.
Let's play how do we move forward? Watch that killer video where somebody puts a bunch of people on the playground and it's like, okay, if you had these things happen in your life, take 10 steps back.
Yes.
Watch that video and factor in the experience. We've become much more aware of people of color. And we're looking a lot at the Black community, at the Asian community, all of our communities, right? Let's also look at our Indigenous communities. They're so stomped on, and they are beautiful people. There's so much, there's just as much to contribute. Like, reach out. Educate yourself. I posted something the other day. There's a case in Texas right now. We had a thing happen in Canada called residential schools where First Nations people from the church and the government went into Native communities and pulled all the children out and put them in a school where they were taught that who they were and where they came from was bad, wrong, evil, and vile. And they were literally cut off from talking to any members of their family because they were savages and all these other horrible things. And those kids were beaten, tortured, and murdered en masse if they didn't agree. And sometimes even if they did. That's what they're digging up mass graves of Native children up here who were murdered. They were taken away from where they live. And now I can understand some people may feel strong emotion about this. So breathe for a second. Give yourself the space for that. Imagine if you feel that way just hearing this, how it feels to live through it. And now take a step back and go, okay, I'm going to educate myself just a little bit here and there. When you see a post like the one the other day of this community in Texas that's about to start taking kids away from native kids away from their families in the same similar structure, figure out who to email. I don't know who to email. I posted that having no constructive action step, unfortunately, because I don't know. My hope is that somebody's going to go, you could email here, you can call there. Texas is its own flavor. We can still speak up because it's pebbles in a jar. It's water, drops of water in the bucket. It's going to overflow at some point. But if we don't advocate for each other, and there's a fine line. I was in Costa Rica a few weeks ago, and I had the great privilege of being in a Native community all day, and wow, it was so cool. Took this river ride up these dugout canoes with motors on them. It was so fun.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and when I left, I really was like, I do a birthday fundraiser every year, and I want to do one for the Steel Brapa people, they're the Bribri peoples, and so I was talking to one of the elders in some matriarchal society, one of the women about, okay, through my terrible Spanish, about I want to contribute, I want to do this fundraiser, and my translator said she wants to help, and I was like, oh, no, time out. They don't need my help. They are really smart, capable people. I'm here to offer support because I can be a conduit from some financial support into their mission, which is clearly effective in making a difference and empowering their people. It's how can I step back and respect your culture and empower you to empower the people, in your community? How can I support you? Because I'm not going to hand you stuff that I think is useful. I know nothing about your life. I'm an Indigenous person, but I barely know my own culture because I was taken away from it, right? Like, how can I respect and support you to be fully you, and keep my boundaries and deal with my own emotions needing to help so bad because of the pain I feel when I hear your story? Breathe for a second and just go, okay. Let's be an alchemist, because we are all alchemists, right? Let's transmute this energy into actual constructive energy.
I love all of that.
It's such a
Like
process.
I said, there's so many reasons. Like you guys have no idea. Like Jennifer's a really big deal. And she's not just a big deal because of the stuff that she's done. She's got great filmography. If your children play video games, watch cartoons, good chance you've heard her. That's great. But there's so much more to her. And she didn't just get here overnight. And she's an amazing singer, and she's got 2 songs out that I know of right now that you can find on Apple, Spotify. One's called Never, and I listened to that with my daughter. And Jennifer was so amazing. Right before we came on, she was able to talk to my daughter, whose favorite character just happens to be who Jennifer voices. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's her voice. Like when I tell you, and it's important that you know this. This is me telling you this, because at the end of the day, you're still just Jennifer, right? You're both amazing and irrelevant in the same breath, like all of us, right?
And that's true of every one of us, by the way.
Yeah. Every single one of us. Yeah. Every one of us. We're both amazing and important and irrelevant, right? But is the fact that the universe aligned us was definitely not by mistake. And hopefully this just creates an amazing long-term relationship, because that's girl power here. Yes. But I want you guys seriously to go out and just see what Jennifer's about, and please, like, there's so much. And you guys know I tout love and kindness and self-love, and to know that is to know these things. Like, humans are humans. And I have this beautiful shirt that I got from Earthbound a while back. And every time I wear it, people are like, I love that shirt, but it's called Human Kindness. And that does start with you, but then also keeping in turn, you don't have to agree with everything she says, I say, or anybody else for that matter, but just educate yourself, just be aware. And there's so many people, and there's so many things that you can do to help. And you don't just need a big platform like what Jennifer has, or a podcast or anything. You can make a difference, and you do matter. So as we wrap up, I have something really fun that I was thinking about. Okay. If I was a cartoon character, or if I was a game character, and you had to voice me, knowing what you know about me and my vibe. And sorry, we have a cat visitor right now.
Hello.
This one's Ezra. I have 3 kitty cats, and Ezra is one. And I am in love with my animals. Like, they rule the light. They rule my world. I have boundaries with humans, not with animals. But if I was a video game character, and I was going to be like in battle or something, and I had a voice, what would my voice be? I want to hear it from you. Like, create a voice for me.
Tell me your battle cry. Tell me what your battle cry would be.
What do you mean? Like, what your
key phrase, like the phrase that you say that, like, cuts through the crap.
Would be, it is what it is. That's always my battle cry.
This. Okay, I got to move this back. I'm going to blow it out.
Oh boy, this is going to take some work.
All right, people. It is what it is.
I love that. Oh my God. That is like everything. And
I love that. I love that so much. And I love that. Hey, people, because that is me. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, man, it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And
Yeah.
I have to say this, and this like this very first interview that is in this is episode 98. So and 97 podcasts. There's
Yeah.
I've had one amazing doctor. Dr. Paul was on a year and a half ago talking about the pandemic and stuff. But to just see the strength and to hear the story is people are going to relate to you, Jennifer, not just because of what you do, but because of who you are and who you are continuing to be. And the fact that you shared your time and your knowledge and your openness and your kindness and your pain and your not pain, your power, your
My
experience
path, right? Yeah.
is greatly appreciated, and I'm sure so many people are going to want to see and hear what you're doing. And I just want to say she's got a few things up and coming that's just recently been announced. One is the Goblins animated series,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that seems like it's supposed to be really
Oh,
good.
it's so cool. It's actually put together by some brilliant voice actors, Phil Lamar, Matt Young King, like just a whole incredible team.
So I
Yeah.
can't wait for that. We've also got in pre-production, we have X-Men 97. Please tell me you're going to continue to play Jean Grey. Is that who you're
I
playing?
am not allowed to say who I'm playing, but
Oh,
I will tell you what
Hallie.
you
Okay,
did.
so we have to, she's on an NDA, so we don't want to get her in trouble. So I can only say that in the past, she has voiced Jean Grey in the past. So I don't know what it's going to look like this time, but be aware that that's coming out. We also have, that's filming right now, we have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, and that is a video game. Do we have any kind of idea when that may or may not be released?
I don't know the time. Going to Bastila immediately. I don't know the timeline on the game, but I am Bastila again, which is very exciting. Yeah.
Love that. And then we also we have a whole Star Wars thing with you. We have Star Wars Detours that's in post-production right now, and that's a TV series. Is
Are
that
they
an
talking about
animated
that
TV
one?
series?
Because that's a brilliant animated series run by Seth Green and Todd Grimes and Matt Seimrick and the Robot Chicken team, and uh, it's been around for quite a while, and it was put in the vault when Disney bought LucasArts, and I sure do hope it sees the light of day because we had a blast making it.
Oh, I can't wait because it says post-production. And then something that has just recently been completed is the League of Superheroes. And that says that you are Allura, right?
Yes. Yes.
So guys, she is just about everything. And she's got the best thing ever. She's got the best personality. You will have